My daughter's friend in elementary school was actually her sister. In our younger days, the ex-wife and I would get drunk and have foursomes with a coworker and his wife. They were never able to have kids. Suddenly, she became pregnant. My wife also became pregnant. No one ever really said much about it. After several years, I had a new career. We moved away, then came back to the same area. One day, my daughter came home and said she has a twin sister in her class and named the girl. Yep, it was her. We all denied it, but now she is an adult, and I'm pretty sure she knows. My psychiatrist offered me cocaine when he didn't recognize me as his patient. All right, I need to know, do you think this is morally acceptable? I am in my 20s and have struggled with depression and ADHD for a super long time. I finally agreed to see a psychiatrist that my parents recommended. He charges us like a ton of money because he did not accept our insurance. Anyways, I saw him in person for about 4 to 5 times. I was out at an event in our town where there was a band playing and everyone was dancing. I was drinking beers with my friend when we saw him. Dude, that's like my therapist or whatever, I say to my friend. Oh well, who cares, she says, and goes off in front of me to dance. Suddenly, one of his friends is dancing with my friend, and he appears closer with some other guys. How do I know you? The psych turns to ask me as we watch my friend start getting low. Are you guys the girls from that party last night? Yeah, I say, half-assed and joking, and I go along with this. My friend returns with the guy. Dude, they were at the party last night. Keegan's crazy, isn't he? Do you guys want to do some blow? He pulls out a baggie of coke before we can even confirm. My friend is drunk and wants to do it, and so we go near these restrooms about a couple of steps to the right of us. While my friend is doing the coke, he looks at me and asks me if I want some. I say, no, I'm good. I don't do coke. It makes me depressed and shit. Hoping this would trigger his memory. He grabs the bag from my friend's hand and sticks his car key inside and pulls it to his nose. He takes a huge sniff and says, you know, I'm a psych. You could talk to me about that. I nearly died inside. This is the first person I ever spoke about my mental health with. This guy told me that my ex-boyfriend was a sex addict while he's out here doing lines with girls that look pretty young and are drunk. I chose to enter my grandparents' room without knocking and lost my innocence. Relevant context. I was like 12 at the time. I have not told anyone this awful story. Not a soul. My grandparents were in their 70s. I visit my grandparents overseas pretty often, and every time I go, I get sick. I can count the number of taxi cabs I've spewed vomit in the back seat on the way to the hospital. Sorry, y'all, because that number is precisely equal to the number of times I've been to visit. So, I'm sick. I wake up in the middle of the night, extremely hungry, so I decide to go wake up my grandfather to ask him to help me make something to eat. I know, noble of me. It is at this point that I believe God attempts to send me a warning. A random memory resurfaces right as I'm about to open my grandpa's bedroom door. Last night, my grandmother randomly mentioned with more than a note of excitement that she was going to sleep in my grandfather's room. Well, okay. I was 12 and didn't think much of it. I was a dumb 12-year-old that didn't respect privacy. I opened the door. This memory is scorched into my brain. My grandfather is on top, delivering the most insane front shots, missionary, to my poor grandmother, who was feeding me medicine like a few hours ago. I'd never seen him move like that. The technique, my God, and the noises. I was there for a good 5 seconds maybe, before he realized I was there, and promptly flipped off of my grandmother like nothing happened, saying some casual like, "Hey, close the door. Be there in a minute." So, I closed the door. My memory of what came next is a bit fuzzy, but he basically made some food and warned me to knock on doors before I entered them. I don't think he thought I really saw anything, so I basically just acted like I saw nothing, ate my food, shut my mouth, and tried to go back to sleep. My grandfather passed a few years ago, and this is unfortunately my most salient memory of him. This was absolutely harrowing to witness at 12 then, but now I think it's kind of funny. I hope you're having a good time in the afterlife. Just, hopefully, not as good as you were having that night. Nobody needs to hear those noises, man. Anyways, highly regret opening that door. I hereby vow and warn you all to always knock before entering doors, lest you intrude upon someone's privacy and permanently scar yourself. I used to call chat lines and pretend I was underage. Back in the 90s, telephone chat lines were pretty big. I used to call the chat lines, and at times, a friend would come over and we would entertain ourselves by calling the chat lines. We sounded and looked younger than we were. Granted, at the time, we were around 19. We would call the chat lines and pretend we were 14-year-old lesbians and would see how many men we could get to come over after making sure they knew we were 14. We would give the address to an apartment building across the street from my apartment where we could get a full view from the window to these men. A lot of them would take hour-long bus rides to get there or pull up in taxis. They would literally gather out front waiting on these girls, groups of 10 plus at a time, even chatting with each other waiting for over an hour for the girls. It was insane. At the time, we thought it was funny, but it was absolutely not, and also potentially put others at the apartment building across the street in danger. Looking at the comments today, I see a lot don't believe my story. For random reasons. My account doesn't have much history, or this was from an episode of a show, etc. No, really, this happened. It happened fairly often back then. We would do this for our entertainment. If I was gonna make something up, I would have added that I helped get them busted or something, which I wish I would have done.